Okay, so we did talk about this yesterday. We opened up the show with a segment about Connor McDavid and whether or not the non-reception of the Conn Smythe that he did was disrespectful. And this video kind of popped off. I'm pretty happy with it. 6.4 thousand views. A lot of people in the comments discussing their opinions. We had a lot of people, and we had a lot of diverse opinions. People were saying that this was an okay thing, that this demonstrates the leadership that McDavid has for his team that's down in the dumps and that needs to be together in the locker room. Others said that, hey, McDavid is putting himself above the NHL and above the legacy of the Conn Smythe trophy and the meaning behind the names that have been engraved on that trophy before, and it was disrespectful. So a lot of people with different opinions went out there and had their conversations, but I wanted to revisit the topic in today's video, because we now have ourselves an opinion from somebody who I think, like, if there's anybody that's going to speak out about Connor McDavid being disrespectful by winning the Conn Smythe as a losing player on the losing team, the one person on planet Earth that I feel is qualified to speak about this spoke about it. Let's talk today about Jean-Sébastien Giguere, because he actually had himself an interview where he just talked about this, and when I saw this, I was just surprised. I was like, okay, wait a minute, they dragged this cat out of the hat? JS Giguere? Like, I get it, it's relevant to the conversation, but the fact that BPM Sports, yeah, shout out to BPM Sports once again, BPM actually had JS Giguere on their show. That is amazing. That's a blast from the past. Obviously, it's relevant. Obviously, they called him for this reason, to talk about the McDavid stuff, but let's go out there and take a look at it. So obviously, if you didn't know, JS Giguere was the last player to win the Conn Smythe trophy as a member of a losing team in the Stanley Cup Finals. Now, Giguere had himself a pretty good career outside of the Anaheim Ducks squad that he lost the Stanley Cup Finals with, but if you take a look at some of these numbers, I mean, Elite Prospects is kind of tweaking right now, so I apologize if some of the images are not really nice, but either way, JS Giguere, in the Stanley Cup playoff run that he had where he won the Conn Smythe, he had 21 games played, a 1.62 goals against average, and a 9.45 save percentage with 5 shutouts. He went 15-6-0, obviously 15 wins, they lost the Stanley Cup in Game 7, JS Giguere had an opportunity to seal the deal, but the Anaheim Ducks just could not get it done in front of him. As a result, he won the Conn Smythe trophy, despite losing, and the image that will haunt his memory forever is this one. The goaltender of the Stanley Cup losing team that was phenomenal all playoff long, and especially in that final series, wins the MVP despite walking away with no championship ring. And he looks absolutely devastated. Seriously. I mean, Gary Bettman's there, he's got a little bit of a smirk. Gary always has a smirk, to be fair, but he's looking at JS Giguere giving him the trophy, and that's just a man whose soul has been sucked out of him and would need to take a few days to settle down and get everything back up to speed. That guy was demoralized. And if Connor McDavid ended up taking a picture with the Conn Smythe after winning it 2 nights ago, maybe we would have seen something similar to this picture, but he didn't. He decided not to. I said it was because, hey, the production of the program was kind of skewed. They announced the Conn Smythe like 5, 6, 7 minutes after the handshake line ended, and after the Oilers were not even on the ice anymore. Everybody left. Connor McDavid was the last guy on the ice for the Oilers. He handshook everybody, and then after everybody went down to the tunnel, McDavid went too, and they didn't do the Conn Smythe presentation until like multiple minutes after. So I'm kind of thinking, hey, it's okay, because, like, Connor might have taken off all his equipment or whatever, like, why would he put it all back on just to go on and take a picture with Gary Bettman and then skate back away and take it all off again? Like, it just seemed inconvenient. But either way, let's go over to BPM Sports Talk Radio. This article with the video was published yesterday on the 25th. Even if you're the best in the world, you are not bigger than the sport. JS Giguere, who won the Conn Smythe in 03, even though he lost the final, returns to the controversy surrounding Connor McDavid. The video is 11 minutes long, and it will be linked in the description. I'll also leave a link in the description to this article on tvasports.ca, because what they did was they summarized the quotes made by JS Giguere, allowing us to catch up, screenshot it, put it on the screen, and read it. JS Giguere says about Connor McDavid, I experienced that moment, and I believe it's a privilege to play in the National Hockey League. You are never bigger than the sport. You may be the best player in the world, the sport is still bigger than you. I would have liked for him to come forward, although I understand that it is difficult. By agreeing to run despite the agony of defeat, McDavid could have also set an example for young people, said Giguere. Young people see McDavid as a superhero, and he could have shown them how to win and how to lose. It would have been a great image of him to see him accept that trophy. If McDavid's decision is not unanimous, the same cannot be said of the vote which awarded him the Conn Smythe. All the journalists who had the honor of voting gave him their first-place vote. That's incorrect, TVA Sports. Connor McDavid was not the unanimous first-place voter. One name on the ballot, Ryan S. Clark, actually had him as number 2. So thank you, Ryan S. Clark, for still being the Vancouver Canucks savior in everything, pretty much, predicting the Canucks to beat the Oilers and not being the one person to get McDavid that number 1 vote. It's kind of crazy how that works, but either way, going back over to the comments made by JS Giguere, he's absolutely correct in his assessment, and I'll say that, like, obviously for me personally, you watched the video that we made yesterday, I kind of am okay personally with how McDavid didn't come back and take the photo, especially considering the circumstances of the event, but JS Giguere is pretty correct here too. Now, obviously, when we want our kids to grow up playing hockey, we would prefer for them to be sportsmen, or sportswomen. I guess that's the term, right, for young girls growing up, but either way, we want sportsmanship in the sport. And acknowledging that the sport is ultimately a privilege, that this is a bigger thing than you, it does bode well into the idea that says that we probably should be teaching our children and younger athletes to lose in the right way. Obviously, you're going to be sad. You're going to be ticked off. Emotions are going to be running high. This is not going to be the most sane moment of your life if you lose a game in the Stanley Cup Finals, but just the message that it sends, you know? I think at some point you have to acknowledge that Connor McDavid, while he was the Conn Smythe winner, while he was all this, while he was so good, that's just it. He is so good. He is the face of this sport. He is the one and only. He is the guy that probably consistently makes ESPN Top 50 highlights from the sport of hockey. Like, he is that dude. He represents more than just the Oilers or himself or the Stanley Cup Finals or even the Conn Smythe. He represents, in a way, the entire sport. And so, having the face of the league not come out here to accept a trophy, I can understand the perspective that says that it's a really big deal that McDavid didn't do that. Again, I don't really care. I'm not the one who's going to say I'm pissed off that McDavid didn't do that, but it is interesting how JS Giguere, the one guy who ended up doing that himself, ended up saying pretty much the same thing too, that yeah, he's got to do it. He's got to. Even though he can understand why it will be difficult to, he's got to. So I'll leave a link in the description to both the article with the writing and the actual audio itself. It's on TVA and BPM. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about JS Giguere speaking out about Connor McDavid and Connor's non-Conn Smythe show. How he didn't go out there and take a picture, how he did not accept the trophy, and how even in the interview afterwards you can tell that the guy didn't really care. Okay, maybe that's a separate issue, or not even an issue, but a separate conversation topic on its own, but for now, Connor McDavid is a Stanley Cup Final losing Conn Smythe winner. And I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.